Hello there and welcome back to this channel. You might recall that in my previous video I had mentioned that in the next video I'll be doing something on budgeting for those who earn irregularly. Now these would include artisans, entrepreneurs, small business people and so on and so forth. That is people who do not necessarily earn monthly, that is at the end of the month, but rather maybe every other day, daily, weekly, and so on and so forth. So this video is meant to address their budgeting needs. But before I proceed, please watch all the way to the end. Continue to like, share, comment, and if my content makes sense to you, kindly subscribe, because that is how this channel grows. Now, if you happen to fall into this category of people who earn an income but irregularly, there's no need to throw your hands up in despair and just spend as the money comes in, because there are ways and means by which you can create order, despite the fact that you can't really predict how much you'll have at the end of the month or at the end of the week, because your money comes in based on the services you provide from one day to the next, and so on and so forth, based on how your clientele comes in. So there's no need to despair, because I have a number of tips that I think you will benefit from. Now, I'm qualified to speak on this purely from a practical perspective. I'm not a banking and finance expert. I'm giving practical tips from my personal experience. And also, I have done a bit of research and spoken to one or two people out there to bring you a holistic perspective on how this is done, so that you don't sweat it, okay? So the very first point is this: determine your average monthly inflow. Ordinarily, how much would you say you earn per month? How much comes in at the end of the month? Everything put together, what would you say you earn on average monthly? Let me explain. First of all, determine your monthly inflow and then divide that by 12. 12 representing the 12 months of the year. That will give you a figure for your average monthly income. For you to be able to do this properly, you have to have some way of documenting what comes in as it comes in. So if you're the kind of person who earns daily, you need to start putting down daily how much you made, so that at the end of the month, you'll be able to know that, okay, cumulatively, this is how much came in this month. So let's peg it at, say, maybe 180,000 naira. If you want to be disciplined about this, you need to try and do it over a span of some months, maybe 3 or 4 months, to try and get an idea of how much comes in monthly. Or, if you can, try and even do it for an entire year. Let's say in January you earned 180,000, subsequently 250, after that maybe 300,000 or 400,000, then another 120, 150, and so on and so forth. When you are done, add all the figures over the span of 12 months. Add everything. Get one figure from that. Then divide that by 12. And you will now have a better idea of what your average monthly earn is. For those of us who are good at mathematics, that may not be too difficult. What I just explained is basic, just the basic way of calculating averages. Okay? So that is the first step. Now, the second step, you also need to determine not just how much you spend, but what those things are that you're spending money on. So for instance, what are your recurring expenses? What are your needs, responsibilities, bills? Write them down. And how much each subhead ordinarily requires. You can split this into daily, weekly, monthly expenses. I strongly recommend noting down all of your expenses daily for a month to establish a pattern and track your spending. The idea here is to identify leakages, unwanted and unnecessary expenses. Those are what I refer to as leakages. Put everything down, including the amounts you spend on giving yourself a good time, taking your friends out, buying suya, pizza, all these things. Put everything down. Okay? Then step 3. Now that you have your average monthly earning, you know what comes in monthly on average, and you have determined the things that you ordinarily spend money on, you can now plan your budget based on how much you ordinarily earn averagely per month. So let's say your average came to about 130,000 per month. Remember, we're working with the law of averages here. I'm not fantastic at mathematics myself, so this is not something that needs to frighten anybody. If you are in doubt, just look for somebody around who understands how to calculate averages better than you do, and get the person to assist you. It's not rocket science, believe me. If I can get a grasp on it, so can you. You don't need too much algebra and what to get basic things like this out of the way. Okay? So don't feel intimidated because I'm telling you, oh, you have to add all of this and then divide by 12 to get, no, don't let that intimidate you. If you're already confused, just look around for a neighbor or a friend who understands better how to make such calculations and let the person help you out, okay? So to further buttress the last point, now that you know what your average monthly income is, if you recall in the last video, we shared a number of rules for how to budget your money, right? How to budget your income. You can do 50-30-20. You can do 70-20-10, 60-30-10, or you can come up with your own. But the idea is to have some kind of structure around which you can manage your finances in such a way that you're able to carry yourself with dignity through the month, attend to some challenges of life, maybe help one or two people out, and still put something small aside for a rainy day. That's the idea, that's the principle behind this. And that is why it's so important to have an idea of your average monthly income. So you now use that average. And of course, you apply with common sense, because averages, well, we all know that in practical terms, averages don't really mean that that is what comes in every month. Not really. Okay? So you apply common sense, but this is one way of at least having an idea, such that you know that if on average every month you are earning at least 150 based on the average that you calculated, you don't now go and start planning your budget based on those 1 or 2 months that you earned 350,000. Because on average, you don't earn 350,000 a month. So that's the logic behind doing, knowing what your average is per month so that you can now plan accordingly. Okay? So remember to budget. Very important. Very, very important. And if you're able to save, please do try. If you cannot save 10%, make it 5%. Save on a monthly basis or on a weekly basis, whichever one works for you. Save, but then you save with a view to investing in something. Because if you just save your money and you keep it, money is always fluctuating, and with our naira, usually, sadly, most of the time it seems to be on a downward spiral, so that the value your money had last year might not be the same this year. So what your 100,000 naira could buy last year, it cannot buy this year, and you just saved it and kept it there. So the idea behind savings is not for you to keep money somewhere that you go and admire every now and then. The idea is for you to save with a purpose. You save with a view to investing into something that will yield something more. Maybe you want to buy a piece of land. Okay, and then when we speak of investing, of course, we're talking about putting your money into assets. So, for instance, just to give you an example, a piece of land in a fast-growing part of town is an asset. Because even if you don't build there, you could wait for about a year or 18 months and then fling it and make some profit on that. Yeah? So, a very layman's way of looking at assets and liabilities is, a liability is something that constantly takes away from you, while an asset is something that gives you something back over a period of time. So, for instance, stocks and shares can be seen as assets. Real estate, landed property, things like that, assets. Some kinds of jewelry can be assets too. If they're very, very expensive and they're made of precious stones or precious metals, they could be assets, because as they appreciate, you can sell them off, and So that's just the layman's way of helping you to understand what liabilities and assets are. But the focus of our video today, like I said earlier, is about helping those who earn irregular income to know how best to budget. So we didn't even focus on saving in this particular video. Now, earlier in the video, I mentioned that I have spoken to a number of people who earn an irregular income, and they shared their thoughts with me about how they go about it. So let's hear from them. Ejiro is a fashion designer based right here in Abuja.
I work with a budget. I have to work with a budget in order to spread the money so that it will be enough for the month. So let's just say I do a job, and the job is 50,000 naira, for instance, for a particular outfit. I will take 60% and as my profit, so I'll put that one aside on what I call my savings account, and the remaining 40% in another account that I call my transfer account. Now, that transfer account is to buy things like lining, stay, transfer to my tailors, general expenditure. And for people like us, it's very difficult to segregate home money from work money. Now, people say I'm supposed to do that, but it's practically impossible. Now, I won't say, no, this is 60% is what I have put aside from my savings, and so I can't touch from it. So every time stay and lining finishes, every time the particular thing I need for the outfit finishes, I need to buy, and I do not have, and I finished the money in my transfer account, I shouldn't take, I'll have to just take a little. But that separation, the initial separation, helps for me to know that I can't take more than that 60%. I can't take so much rather from that 60%. I have to take a little from it, knowing that it's not what was meant for the original work. So I put 40% out for work and 60% out for home expenditure. Put it that way. So I have to budget that 60%, 40% originally, although most times I don't stick to it. But it helps me to know when I'm going overboard, and sometimes it also helps me to know when I've gotten a lot of profit. So yeah.
On the average, I earn 110,000 in the minimum, depending on the income from the transactions we get. Sometimes it can get up to 200,000, can get up to, the minimum basically is just 110,000. After paying my tithes, I divide the money into two. Whatever is left after the tithe, I divide it into two. I save half of it. I just save half of it. And then the remaining half part, I'd also divide it into two. Half part of that, half I use for running my business, transportation, going out. If I need to change a lens, if I need to buy extra batteries, if I need to invest in a new gear, I do all that from that. And then the first half, I used to take care of myself, feeding, recharge card stuff, home, whatever, to run myself. And that's how it has been for now.
All right. I hope you found those useful. In my next video, I will be discussing savings, both, regular, local, informal saving methods and online saving platforms.